My name is Mufti Menk, and I welcome you to a place where hearts are softened, faith is renewed, and the soul finds rest in the words of Allah. Here, we remind ourselves that true wealth is not in our bank accounts, but in our hearts. We reflect on the truth that contentment is the greatest treasure, that every blessing is a trust, and every hardship is a doorway to Allah's mercy. We learn to never lose hope, to hold fast to patience, to value the power of Du'a, and to keep walking towards the light no matter how heavy the darkness feels. This is your sanctuary for reminders that heal and inspire. Subscribe now, join our growing family, and let us walk together towards a life of meaning, purpose, and peace. True wealth begins in the heart, because the heart is where your true treasures are stored. If the heart is rich with faith, rich with contentment, rich with remembrance of Allah, then even if your pockets are empty, you walk as a king. And if the heart is empty, empty of Iman, empty of trust in Allah, empty of gratitude, then even if your hands hold the treasures of the earth, you walk as a beggar. The Prophet reminded us that wealth is not measured by the abundance of possessions, but by the richness of the soul. This richness is not bought with coins nor built with bricks. It is gifted by Allah to those who seek Him above all else. When the heart is connected to Allah, it no longer fears loss, because it understands that nothing in this dunya was ever truly ours to begin with. Every blessing we hold is a trust from Allah, and every trial we endure is a step closer to Him if we respond with patience and faith. A heart that is full of Iman is not shaken by the ups and downs of life. The market may crash, the job may be lost, the wealth may disappear overnight, but the believer's heart remains steady because its security is not tied to the fluctuations of the dunya. It is anchored in Allah's promise that whatever is written for you will reach you, and whatever is not written for you will never come your way. This certainty frees you from greed, from jealousy, from the endless race of comparison that traps so many souls. You begin to see wealth differently. You no longer envy those who have more. Instead, you envy the one who wakes up with a heart at peace, a tongue that remembers Allah, and hands that serve others for His sake. When your heart is rich, your eyes see beauty where others see nothing. A simple meal becomes a feast. A small home becomes a palace. A single coin given in charity feels like a treasure sent to the Akhirah. Your gratitude transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. You stop chasing more and start cherishing what you have. You realize that the sweetness of contentment is far greater than the fleeting thrill of acquisition. The dunya will keep running, its lights will keep shining, its offers will keep tempting, but you will walk through it with a heart that has already found its home in the remembrance of Allah. This richness of the heart also shields you from despair. Life will test you, wealth will come and go, people will praise you one day and criticize you the next, but the heart that relies on Allah is not broken by these changes. It finds its honor not in status, not in possessions, but in its closeness to the Creator. Such a heart understands that poverty of the soul is far more dangerous than poverty of the wallet. A person with millions but no connection to Allah is truly impoverished. A person with little but with a heart full of Iman is truly rich. The dunya tries to convince you otherwise. It tells you that you need more money, more property, more recognition to be valuable. But the Quran tells you that your worth lies in your taqwa. Allah says, indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. Your bank balance will not save you in the grave. Your possessions will not answer for you when the angels ask their questions. Only the deeds carried in your heart and hands will stand beside you. A rich heart is also a generous heart. When you are not enslaved by the fear of losing, you give freely for the sake of Allah. You know that your rizq is written and cannot be taken from you by giving. In fact, every time you give, Allah promises to replace it with something better, if not in this world, then in the hereafter. This makes the believer's generosity bold and joyful, because it is rooted in trust, not calculation. Such wealth is a light in dark times. It allows you to stand firm when others crumble, to smile when others frown, to keep going when others give up. It allows you to sleep peacefully at night, not because you have everything you want, but because you trust the one who controls all that exists. This is the wealth that no thief can steal, no market can crash, and no loss can destroy. So do not measure your wealth by the weight of your gold or the size of your bank account. Measure it by the strength of your iman, the depth of your gratitude, the purity of your intentions, and the peace in your heart. If you have Allah, you have everything. If you lose Allah, you have nothing. And the richest person is the one who wakes up and sleeps with the certainty that their Lord is pleased with them. May Allah grant us hearts that are rich in faith, rich in gratitude, and rich in trust in Him, so that we may walk through this world as kings in contentment, no matter what we own in our hands. Gratitude is one of the most powerful acts a believer can cultivate, because it changes not only what you see, but how you live. When you thank Allah for even the smallest blessing, you are not simply acknowledging it, you are planting a seed for it to grow. Allah Himself promises in the Quran, "If you are grateful, I will surely increase you." This is not just about material wealth, it is about every form of goodness in your life: peace, health, love, guidance, opportunities, and even the strength to bear hardships. Gratitude shifts your focus from what is missing to what is present, from what you wish you had to what Allah has already given you. And in doing so, you unlock a flood of abundance that begins in the heart and overflows into your life. When you wake up and your eyes open to a new day, say Alhamdulillah. That moment alone is a blessing greater than any possession, because without life itself, there is no opportunity to worship, to seek forgiveness, to love, to grow. When you drink a glass of water, remember that millions thirst without it. When you take a single breath without difficulty, think of those whose lungs struggle for air. Gratitude transforms ordinary moments into treasures, because you realize that even the smallest gifts are priceless when you truly see them. A grateful heart is never empty. Even in times of hardship, it searches for reasons to praise Allah. You may be tested with loss, with pain, with uncertainty, but if you look closely, you will still find blessings hidden within the trial, lessons learned, sins forgiven, pride broken, hearts softened. Sometimes Allah withholds certain things to draw you closer to Him, and that too is a blessing if you have the eyes to see it. Gratitude teaches you that abundance is not having everything you want, but recognizing that you already have more than you deserve. When a believer lives with gratitude, their relationship with the dunya changes. The constant chasing for more begins to fade because they are already content with what they have. This contentment frees them from jealousy, from greed, from the endless hunger that consumes so many hearts. Instead of saying, "Why don't I have what they have?" a grateful heart says, "Alhamdulillah for what Allah has written for me." This mindset not only brings peace, but also attracts more blessings, because Allah loves the servant who praises Him in every circumstance. Gratitude is also an act of worship. It is not just a feeling, it is a way of living. It shows in your prayers when you bow your head in humility. It shows in your charity when you give from what you have been given. It shows in your patience when you endure trials with dignity. It even shows in the way you treat people, because a grateful person knows that those around them are a part of Allah's mercy. Every time you express gratitude to Allah, whether in words or in action, you are elevating your soul and drawing closer to Him. The beauty of gratitude is that it multiplies both what you have and how you feel about it. You may have only a little food on your plate, but when you eat it with a heart that says, Ya Allah, you have fed me when you could have left me hungry, it tastes sweeter and fills you more. You may live in a modest home, but when you thank Allah for giving you shelter, it feels like a palace. You may have only a few coins in your pocket, but when you use them for good, you carry the wealth of a king in the sight of Allah. Gratitude also guards you from arrogance. It reminds you that nothing you own, nothing you achieve, nothing you enjoy is purely your doing. It is all from Allah. Your skills, your health, your opportunities, even the people who support you. The moment you forget this, pride begins to creep in, and with pride comes the danger of losing blessings. But the one who remembers Allah as the source of all good is protected from this trap, because they know that the giver can take as easily as he gives, and perhaps the most beautiful part of gratitude is how it softens the heart. A grateful heart sees the world with kindness, because it understands that every person is also living under Allah's mercy. It is easier to forgive when you remember how much Allah has forgiven you. It is easier to help when you remember how much Allah has helped you. Gratitude makes you humble in prosperity and patient in adversity, because both are opportunities to worship. If you want your life to be filled with abundance, start by filling your heart with thanks. Not just for the big moments, but for the everyday mercies we so easily overlook. The beat of your heart, the light of the sun, the shade of a tree, the smile of a loved one, the safety of your home, the faith in your chest. Every Alhamdulillah you say builds a bridge between you and more blessings. And when your life is anchored in gratitude, you will find yourself wealthy in ways that no money can measure, for Allah's treasures are endless, and His mercy has no limit. May Allah make us among His grateful servants, so that every breath we take is a reminder of His generosity, and every blessing we hold is a key to more. Charity in the path of Allah is never a loss. What leaves your hand for His sake never truly leaves you. It is planted in the gardens of the hereafter, where it will grow into something far greater than you could imagine. The Quran describes this reality so beautifully, comparing charity to a single seed that grows into 7 ears, and each ear holds 100 grains. Allah multiplies for whom He wills. This is not just multiplication in numbers. It is multiplication in reward, in barakah, in the peace it brings to your heart, and in the doors it opens for you in this world and the next. Every time you give, you are making an investment that cannot fail, because the one managing it is Allah, the most generous. In this dunya, investments rise and fall, profits can vanish overnight, but with Allah there is no risk. What you give in His name is safe, preserved, and waiting for you when you will need it most, on the day when wealth and children will be of no benefit, except to the one who comes with a pure heart. Charity purifies not only your wealth but also your soul. It cleanses greed from your heart and replaces it with compassion. It reminds you that what you have is not truly yours. It is a trust from Allah, a portion of which has been written for others. When you give, you acknowledge that you are not the owner but the caretaker of your blessings. This humility draws you closer to Allah and further from the arrogance that blinds so many. You might think you cannot afford to give, but the truth is you cannot afford not to. The Prophet taught us that charity does not decrease wealth. It may seem like subtraction to the eye, but in reality, it is addition in the sight of Allah. Every time you give, you open the door for Allah to replace it with something better, maybe in material form, maybe in health, maybe in safety, maybe in the quiet ease of a heart at peace. Charity is not about the amount, it is about the sincerity. A single date given for the sake of Allah can outweigh mountains of gold given for show. It is about the intention that drives your hand, the hope that it reaches those in need, and the certainty that Allah sees even the smallest act of kindness. Sometimes a smile, a helping hand, a kind word to someone in distress is a form of charity. Even removing harm from the path is counted as sadaqah. This is how generous Allah is. He turns every act of good into a rewardable investment. When you give in secret, you protect the purity of your intention, and your heart learns to love giving for Allah's sake alone. The Prophet spoke of 7 categories of people who will be shaded on the day of judgment, and among them is the one who gives charity so quietly that his left hand does not know what his right hand has given. Such giving is not about recognition, it is about building treasures with Allah. Charity also has a way of protecting you from harm. The Prophet taught that giving charity repels calamity. Sometimes the danger that was headed your way is turned aside because of a coin you gave, a meal you served, or a debt you helped someone pay. You may never see the harm you were saved from, but on the day of judgment, you will be shown the weight of what your giving has done. And charity benefits the giver even before it reaches the receiver. The moment you open your hand, you open your heart. You experience the joy of being the means through which Allah answers someone's dua. Imagine the orphan praying for food, the widow praying for shelter, the stranger praying for help, and Allah writes you as the answer to that prayer. What greater honor could there be? When you stand before Allah, your charity will not be forgotten. It will come as shade on a day when there is no shade but His. It will come as light in the darkness. It will come as weight on the scale when every good deed matters. Every dirham, every smile, every drop of water you gave in His name will stand beside you as a witness. So do not withhold from giving, even if all you have is little. Allah does not look at the size of the gift. He looks at the size of the heart that gave it. Give when it is easy, and give when it is hard. Give when you are in abundance, and give when you are in need. For every time you give for Allah's sake, you are not just helping someone, you are investing in your eternity. May Allah make our hands open in generosity, our hearts pure in intention, and our rewards heavy with the seeds we planted in His path. Tawakkul is the state of placing your full trust in Allah, knowing deep within your heart that nothing in this universe moves without His permission. It is to walk through the storms of life without being paralyzed by fear, because you know the one who controls the wind and the waves is also the one who holds your destiny. When your trust is rooted in Allah, the dunya loses its power over you. The opinions of people, the uncertainties of tomorrow, the threats and whispers of Shaitan, none of them can enslave a heart that has surrendered to its Creator. This trust is not passive, it is an active state of faith. You still take the means, you still plan, you still work, but you do so with the deep understanding that the outcome is in Allah's hands. The Prophet tied his camel before placing his trust in Allah, teaching us that tawakkul is not abandoning action, but coupling effort with reliance. You do your best and then rest your heart in the certainty that whatever comes is exactly what Allah has written for you, and what He writes is always for your ultimate good, even if you do not see it at the moment. Fear thrives in uncertainty. It whispers about the what-ifs, it magnifies the risks, it paints pictures of disaster. But tawakkul dissolves this fear because it reminds you that nothing is uncertain to Allah. He knows what was, what is, and what will be. He knows what you cannot see, and He knows the dangers that never reach you. And when you know that your affairs are in the care of the one whose wisdom is perfect, you can breathe deeply even when the road ahead is unclear. Life will test your trust. You may face loss, sickness, betrayal, or disappointment. You may be pushed into situations where every door seems closed. In those moments, tawakkul is the hand that steadies you. It whispers, Allah has not forgotten you. There is a way forward, even if you cannot see it now. And often, when the help of Allah comes, it comes from places you never imagined, in ways you could never have planned. Tawakkul also frees you from the chains of people's approval. When your heart relies on Allah for your sustenance, your honor, and your protection, you no longer compromise your faith to please others. You do what is right, even if it is unpopular, because you know that all provision and all safety come from Allah alone. The Prophet said that if all of humanity gathered to harm you, they could not harm you except by what Allah has written, and if they gathered to benefit you, they could not benefit you except by what Allah has written. This knowledge is a shield against both fear and false hope. It is also important to remember that tawakkul does not mean life will always be easy. The Prophet, the best of creation, faced trials that would have broken others, yet his heart was at peace because his trust in Allah never wavered. He knew that victory is not always in immediate relief. Sometimes it is in the patience that earns Allah's pleasure. Sometimes the delay, the hardship, the unanswered prayer is itself a form of protection and preparation. When you live with tawakkul, you begin to see that even your challenges carry hidden mercy. The setback that turns you back to Allah, the loss that detaches you from the dunya, the closed door that leads you to something better, all of these are gifts wrapped in forms you might not recognize at first. Tawakkul teaches you to accept them with grace because you trust the one who sent them. This trust transforms how you approach each day. You wake up knowing that whatever is meant for you will not miss you, and whatever is not meant for you will never reach you. You work without desperation, love without clinging, give without fear of losing, and live without being crushed by anxiety. And when night falls, you sleep peacefully because you have placed your affairs in the hands of the one who never sleeps. The dunya will always try to give you reasons to fear, loss of income, loss of health, loss of control. But the believer who has tawakkul knows that all these things are in the hands of Allah, and He is the most merciful of protectors. When you stand in prayer, pouring your worries before Him, you leave lighter, because you know your burdens have been placed with the only one capable of carrying them completely. May Allah fill our hearts with true tawakkul, so that no fear can overpower us, no hardship can break us, and no desire for this dunya can distract us from the one who is the source of all security. Wealth is one of the greatest tests Allah can place in the hands of a servant. It is not a medal to display or a trophy to boast about. It is a trust. Allah grants it not only to reward, but also to examine the heart of the one who holds it. Will this wealth draw you nearer to Him, or will it pull you further away? That is the question every believer must ask when blessings increase. The Quran reminds us that wealth and children are adornments of this worldly life, but the enduring good deeds are better in the sight of Allah. This means that the possessions you own are temporary decorations, but the way you use them can build something eternal. Money is neutral. It is neither inherently good nor evil. What transforms it into a means of reward or a cause of punishment is the way it is earned, the way it is spent, and the place it occupies in your heart. If wealth causes arrogance, forgetfulness of Allah, or neglect of the needy, then it becomes a chain that weighs you down on the day of judgment. But if it inspires gratitude, fuels generosity, and allows you to serve the causes that please Allah, then it becomes a bridge toward Jannah. The Prophet himself, though he lived a simple life, reminded his companions that the upper hand, the one that gives, is better than the lower hand that receives. He did not condemn wealth in itself. Rather, he warned against its power to corrupt when it is loved more than the giver. We must also remember that wealth is not always a sign of Allah's pleasure, nor is poverty always a sign of his anger. Pharaoh had immense wealth, yet he was among the most misguided. Many prophets lived in simplicity, yet they were among the most honored. Wealth is given to both the righteous and the corrupt, just as it is withheld from both. It is not the possession of wealth that matters to Allah. It is the condition of your heart in relation to it. When Allah blesses you with wealth, He is watching to see if you will fulfill the rights of that wealth. Will you pay your zakah without hesitation? Will you support your family without stinginess? Will you give in charity without seeking recognition? Will you spend in ways that please Him, avoiding extravagance and waste? Every dirham you spend will be recorded, and on the day of judgment you will be asked about it, how you earned it and how you used it. Wealth also has a way of testing sincerity. When you have little, it is easier to say, if I had more, I would give. But when more comes, the heart is tempted to hold back. The fear of losing what you have worked for, the pull of comfort, the desire for more luxury, these can cloud your intentions. This is why the Prophet praised those who give when they themselves desire to keep. Such giving is a sign that the heart loves Allah more than the fleeting pleasures of this world. There is also the test of humility. Wealth can create a dangerous illusion of self-sufficiency. A person may begin to think, it is my skill, my hard work, my intelligence that brought me this success. They forget that countless others work just as hard but do not receive the same outcome. The believer guards against this pride by constantly remembering that all provision comes from Allah and it can be taken away in an instant. Gratitude and humility are the safeguards that keep wealth from becoming a trap. Wealth is also a test in how you view others. If Allah has granted you more, it is not so you can look down on those who have less. It is so you can lift them up. The Prophet said that none of you truly believes until you love for your brother what you love for yourself. This includes wanting for them the same ease, comfort, and opportunity that you enjoy. Wealth should soften your heart, not harden it. At the same time, wealth can be a means of protection from harm if used wisely. You can use it to educate, to heal, to shelter, to support those who cannot support themselves. You can use it to fund wells that quench the thirst of strangers, to sponsor orphans whose prayers for you will reach the heavens, to support the spread of knowledge and the building of masajid where generations will worship. Every coin used in such ways becomes a shield for you in the akhirah, but the opposite is also true. Wealth spent on sin, on extravagance, on oppression, whether directly or indirectly, becomes a burden. The Quran warns that those who hoard gold and silver and do not spend it in the way of Allah will find it heated in the fire of Jahannam and used to brand their foreheads, sides, and backs. This is a powerful reminder that what you refuse to use for good will become a source of regret in the next life. The wisest approach is to treat wealth as a tool, not a master. Use it while it is in your hands, but never let it settle in your heart. Spend it in ways that will outlive you. Share it while you still have the ability. And remember that on the day you return to Allah, it will not be the size of your bank account that matters, but the size of your heart and the deeds you sent forward. May Allah make our wealth a means of drawing closer to Him. Purify our hearts from attachment to this world, and grant us the wisdom to spend in ways that bring light to our akhirah. True richness is not measured by the size of one's bank account, the grandeur of one's home, or the number of possessions one can boast about. True richness lies in the heart. It is the peace you feel when you wake up in the morning, knowing that what Allah has written for you is enough. It is the calm that washes over you when you realize that no amount of chasing the world will add a single grain of rizq beyond what has already been decreed. The Prophet reminded us that wealth is not in having many possessions, but in having contentment within the soul. This contentment is the ultimate treasure because it cannot be bought, stolen, or lost. It is anchored in the heart of the believer who trusts Allah completely. When a person chases more, they are never truly satisfied. The moment they attain what they thought would bring them happiness, they crave something else. The cycle of wanting never ends, and the soul remains restless. But the one who embraces contentment finds peace in every state. If they have much, they are grateful. If they have little, they are grateful. Their value in the sight of Allah does not decrease because their possessions are few, nor does it increase because their possessions are many. What matters is their gratitude and trust. Contentment teaches us to see blessings where others see emptiness. A simple meal becomes a feast when you eat it with shukr. A modest home feels like a palace when it shelters you and your family in safety. The clothes on your back, no matter how plain, become garments of honor when you wear them with dignity and gratitude to Allah. This is why contentment is the ultimate treasure. It transforms every moment of your life into a gift. It allows you to sleep at night without the burden of envy or greed weighing on your heart. The Quran reminds us again and again that provision is from Allah alone. No one can take away what He has written for you, and no one can give you what He has withheld. So why should the believer exhaust themselves in comparison with others? Why should they measure their worth by the fleeting numbers in someone else's account? The heart that trusts Allah's wisdom will find joy in their portion, no matter how small or great it seems to the eyes of the world. A man may own mountains of gold, yet live in fear of losing them. His nights are restless, and his days are consumed with anxiety over protecting his wealth. Another man may have just enough to feed his family each day, yet his heart is light, his smiles sincere, and his nights peaceful. Which of the two is truly rich? It is not the one who owns the most, but the one whose heart is free from the prison of constant wanting. Contentment does not mean we stop working or striving. Islam teaches us to seek provision through halal means, to be ambitious in our goals, and to improve our lives and the lives of those around us. But it means we strive without greed, work without desperation, and seek without losing sight of the one who provides. Our hearts remain anchored, knowing that whatever comes is from Allah's wisdom, and whatever does not come is also from His wisdom. In times of plenty, the content person does not become arrogant or forgetful of the giver. In times of scarcity, they do not despair or become resentful of His decree. They walk a path of balance, knowing that both ease and hardship are tests, and both require patience and gratitude. This is why the Prophet was able to smile in times of difficulty and show humility in times of victory. His heart was free from attachment to the dunya. When we cultivate contentment, we begin to see life differently. The small things, a child's laughter, a friend's kindness, a cool breeze after a hot day become treasures that money cannot buy. The heart learns to find joy in remembrance of Allah, in the sweetness of salah, in the quiet moments of du'a. And with every breath of gratitude, Allah increases the barakah in our lives, for He has promised, if you are grateful, I will surely increase you. So guard this treasure. Do not let the world's noise drown out the tranquility Allah has placed in your heart. Remember that what you own will one day leave your hands, but the contentment you nurture will remain with you in this world and the next. And on the day when we stand before Allah, our wealth will not be weighed by its quantity, but by how it was earned, how it was spent, and whether our hearts remained attached to Him and not to the fleeting glitter of this dunya. The richest heart is the one that whispers, Alhamdulillah, in every state and truly means it. May Allah fill your heart with light, your life with peace, and your akhirah with eternal success. Until we meet again, keep trusting Allah, keep remembering Him, and never lose hope in His mercy.